Welcome to Pro Practice, your guide to piano mastery. I'm Josh Wright, and today's episode will be covering the second movement of Chopin Concerto No. 1 in E minor, Opus 11. This romance is one of the most beautiful things, I think, in the piano repertoire. So unbelievably innocent, but there is some turmoil that we can feel throughout here. And I want, in this tutorial, to take you through a lot of different ideas with shaping and how to breathe with phrases, where to push and pull with rubato, any pedaling suggestions that might come up besides the basic pedal that you might already intuitively know what to do, so anything tricky there. And then also just some things about tempo and pacing throughout the movement. So without any other introduction, let's go ahead and get started. So cantabile, singing out. And you don't want to be too precious like I just was right there. You want to make sure that you have enough sound. And then even softer there. Okay, let's try that again. So maybe push to the B7 there. Less, and then a little more to there, and then take your time, fermata, wait, and then allow the eighth note to breathe into the next phrase, to there. Okay, a couple of things there. You can, in bar 16, this bar, you can take, it's very strange to do this. This isn't something common that you see in piano literature. Sometimes you'll see to take two keys right next to each other with the thumb, like two black keys or two white keys. But to take two black keys across a third is very strange, but that's what this edition indicates. And I would do that. If you've got big enough hands that you can reach that chord in one figure, you can do that. I personally like the sound of it rolled better. But you've got two rolls surrounding it, little glissandi on these to where you roll bottom to top. So that's totally up to you. I just always liked that to be rolled again. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the alignment of your rolled chords. I would be fairly consistent. I do make exceptions on these. So when I want special emphasis, for instance, so generally I'm playing the last note of the roll with the left hand, but those first two instances, as you saw, I played the first note of the roll with the left hand, but then I played that one with the last note of the roll. Those are expressive devices, and it is more common in Romantic era music to hear those rolls played with the last note of each roll, so you could do this. That would be a little more textbook, but this is very much like ornamentation, where is it on the beat? Is it before the beat? Usually in Baroque and classical music, we see ornaments on the beat, and usually in Romantic music, we see them before the beat. But you can find plenty of exceptions in Baroque and classical music where they come before the beat, and same thing in Romantic music where they come on the beat. It's not the norm, it's the exception, but you still find it. So I wanted to make that really clear from the get-go that you have expressive license or artistic license to do those how you feel. What I would avoid doing is like having them come at random spots, like something like that. That would be very strange. Okay, one thing that I wanted to point out is we are in the key of E major. I alluded to this earlier. I just had a fleeting little thought there. Push to your B7 to there, and then less. And then he says sostenuto. So expanding, maybe taking a little time there. Now you've got two options here. Well, you probably have a lot more than two options, but two options that I like are crescendoing to there, and then diminuendoing to there, and then regrowing, and then this will come back down. Something that I like just a little bit better is it being a little less here and then going all the way to there, and then, and as your hairpin opens up there, you see that Chopin writes a crescendo with a hairpin just meaning the lines rather than C-R-E-S-C. He wrote C-R-E-S-C, the measure before, which totally validates this point that Seymour Bernstein made in his book about interpreting Chopin symbols. Sometimes Chopin will use those hairpin markings to indicate a different type of expression, like taking time. And I think that works beautifully here. So as you're getting bigger to there, and then diminuendo and take time for that 9 tuplet. I like to wait a long time. Okay, now here's our melody. And 1. You don't want to go and. I did that plenty when I was learning this, and I listened back to recordings of myself, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm totally stagnating here. It's not a quarter note, it's an eighth note, and 1. It can obviously be stretched, but you don't want to go so crazy that it's stagnating there. So, and 1. I don't like that. Again, kind of weird to start on the beat. You'll hear plenty of recordings do that. But that, I think, just sounds a little bit more heartfelt. And then simple, keep it resolving there. But don't go so crazy with your time. I took this to my teacher, who I started with when I was 9. I see her a couple of times a year now just to check things before I perform. And she's wonderful, Susan Duhlmeyer. And she's like, Josh, she's like, you've got beautiful rubato, but a lot of times you're overdoing it. And the simplicity of this phrase will lend itself, if you don't take too much there, to the orchestra coming in, which I really liked. So don't, if you do that, the orchestra is like coming in with like this new phrase almost, rather than just a continuation, which is just gorgeous writing on Chopin's part. Chopin gets so much flack for these concerti a lot of times among critics. And I'm like, first of all, why are you criticizing one of the greatest composers ever? And second of all, I think that he absolutely meant for these to be piano solos with some orchestral accompaniment. These are not big dialogues between the orchestra and the piano. This is definitely more like a nocturne feeling piece with some orchestral accompaniment. So having said that, you still want to, any chance you get, have a beautiful dialogue with the orchestra and mesh as one. Because the orchestra isn't playing a huge integral role. I hope that makes sense. So, then take your time, just a little bit, and resolve, but not too much time. Orchestra comes in. This is one place that I really love to explore extremes of dynamics between the hands. I'm not talking too much about voicing in this because it's a given. If you're playing the Chopin concerto, you should be able to voice well. You shouldn't be attempting this piece if you haven't played nocturnes or waltzes or mazurkas or things like this. I think that you really do want to be experienced before you tackle any of his concerti, etudes, sonatas, ballades, scherzi, some of his more advanced. I would just go with shorter works before doing these longer, more advanced works, in my opinion, although the mazurkas certainly are not unadvanced. They're some of the hardest to play. I'm getting off the topic here. What I'm trying to say is whenever you have a chance to explore extremes of voicing, bringing that melody out way more than the accompaniment, it can create kind of this three-dimensional sound in the piano. I don't know if it's going to come through all that much on these mics, but let me show you a very flat voicing where I'm still voicing the right hand out over the left hand, but it's only like maybe a half a dynamic level. You can still hear your melody, but the accompaniment is fighting it. Now, the more extreme you separate those, it's almost like you're creating three-dimensional space between those. There is almost like an echo, and this is a very big piano, and the bigger your piano is, the more resonant most likely it will be. So you can hear it better the bigger your piano is. If you're on a little upright piano, like my daughter has a little upright piano that she practices on a lot of times, it's a little bit harder to do, but nevertheless, still strive for this. See it? There's almost like this echo inside the piano that you can hear even more clearly, like when it's live, especially in a concert hall, you can hear it. So it's going to feel really unnatural in this soft spot to be playing forte on a D sharp, but you want that against a pianissimo left hand. What that does is it just creates this wonderful ambiance. So I would probably bring this in a little with a little strength and then regrow. Very heartbreaking. And that will also make this slur sound like a sigh. Like that. You never end a sigh with unless you're frustrated, maybe. And then terrible trill. What I was saying was terrible, was not lined up. And you can use whatever fingering is comfortable there. Don't fall into this camp of saying, oh, I have to develop awkward trills. For me, 3 and 4 has never felt that good. I can do them, and actually I think I am doing it there. But maybe an even easier fingering would be 2, 3, 2, 1. Don't be afraid to put your thumb on the black key. I mean, don't make a habit of it when you can avoid it. But if that's more comfortable, all you have to do is just push your hand forward as you go in for it. So it's not an jumping to it. Or you could use an inverted fingering if this is more comfortable for you. 2, 1, or like 3, 1, 3, 2. That one feels weird to me. I think that's actually quite bad. But some people like inverted trill fingerings. That's the only way I can play the double thirds etude is in inverted. I cannot do it straight on. So you find what's most comfortable for your hand. So I like to take a little time before that trill as well. Time. What that'll do is it just makes dum be dum bum bum be dum bum. When you go to that trill, it just propels it forward. And that 5